Hello, everyone. Hi, Peter Bex, first in the chat this morning. Frustrating. Oliver Andrews attempts to be first in. Well done. There we go. Hello, PJ. Also, it's all good here, man. I hope it's good with you. So let me know. Caroline, hello. Oh, let's do the heart eyes thing for Caroline. Let's do it. We should do it. Hi. There we go. Super good. Kitchen crew. Ooh. T-shirts. Ooh. Merch shelf. Hello. That's good. So are we. It's good fun. It's good fun. Raphael. Hello. Happy Wednesday. It's good to see you here. Hello, Susan. Hello, Neil. Wednesday already. I know. Crazy stuff. Can't believe it. I'm glad that we have this 5 minutes chat time because I haven't finished my lovely tea and I want to drink it. A very big mug of tea. Super good. By the way, can I tell it?
Yes.
Yeah? Cool. Yes. Good, because I told David earlier.
Okay.
So Chloe's had a couple of afternoons out and whatnot, as you've probably noticed, an odd thing going on. Now I'm going to tell you why. It's because in November she'll be bringing along our 8th grandchild. Yeah. Plus also she won Employee of the Year for the 3rd year running today. So there you go. Yes, Peter. Wow, indeed. It's super cool. So, good stuff. Thank you very much, Oliver. Well, really, it's Chloe that should be here. Why does the title say 27th? Oh, fudge cakes. I actually think I can update that live. Oh, maybe not. No, it's locked in now. That's really annoying. Right, so it's better that it says the 27th than the 278th, which is what it said earlier. I just deleted the wrong character. Oh, dear. Oh, there you go. All the congrats is coming in, which is good. So where do we find ourselves this week? Well, we find ourselves in the second of what has become a 3-part crossover with Make It in Illustrator. Last week we had a look at a couple of things around EPUB. So we're dealing with a reflowable EPUB. And this week we're going to do a little bit more on that. We're going to have a look at a few things. We're also going to have a look at a script or two in what we're doing. So there'll be a lot around that. And we'll be doing that. Hi, Doris. And hi, Reverb. And then we're going to be... next week in Make It in Illustrator, we're going to be carrying on with the cover that we started in Make It in Illustrator yesterday. Now, if you're not a subscriber, make sure you catch that before next Tuesday because, and I actually pop that on screen. So if we just pop the screen up for a sec, Chloe. The streams are free for 7 days to everybody on both YouTube and Behance. But after that time, they're only available to Behance subscribers. There are subscriptions coming along for people who do want to watch on YouTube, but they are not ready yet. Okay, we can go back to Big Talk for a sec, I think, from there. That's cool. Make It an Illustrator InDesign Kitchen, 278th June-Vember. Absolutely. That's how it works here in Narnia, because I have to translate your human numbers into our Narnian numbers, but there we go. So... let's get started then. And so we'll have a quick recap, okay, of where we were last week, right? So I'm going to just show you very quickly, just to remind you, because it's relevant. Last week we started out by looking at some HTML, right? Some very rudimentary, old school HTML at that, right, from here. And so we just got familiar with things like tags. Yeah, so each tag has an opening tag and a closing tag. I'm just reinforcing this because it will be a lot more pertinent next week. Okay, so all of those things. And also we looked at things called HTML entities as well, for characters that can't simply be typed. They won't translate across. And hopefully you'll start to see things like this in a URL, for example. So if you click on something on Amazon, it's not uncommon to actually see the spaces expressed as ampersand NBSP for non-breaking space. So remember all of those things. So we started out with looking at that. Then we came across into InDesign, and we brought in the text and we threaded the text through a number of pages. Just here like so. So 54, yep, 54 pages. We left the front here blank. Then we had some front matter just here. So all the stuff around that. We've got plenty more to do. And we'll pull it all together, drawstring styly, next week. We also used a couple of queries with find change. So we used, the first one I think we used was multiple return to single return. So we used that to get rid of all the extra returns that had been dropped in there. We used also multiple space to single space. Okay, so from all of these things just here, they are all preceded by an enya or a tilde mark just there, like so. Okay, so if you want to know what they are, right, all of these different spaces, right, so it's wide spaces and so on, and quarter spaces and flush spaces, the easiest way for you to find out is to actually get this query, yeah, and then just go up to the type menu, come down to insert white space, and they are listed here in exactly the same order as they're in that set. So an M space, you can see with an M, and then an N space, non-breaking space, flush space, all of that good stuff in there. So all of those spaces, I think they're pretty much in order anyway, from that. So this basically says, and just to show you, I'm going to zoom in. Actually, I might just try copying that out for a second. If I just go back to the editor, and just underneath here, let me drop in a few lines and paste that down. It doesn't work. Oh, I thought it might work to paste in there because it's a very powerful editor, but I'll just zoom in on it for you. Okay, so it creates a set by using this left bracket just here. Okay, and the set is enclosed between that and the right bracket. Okay, so it says all of the different spaces in here. And then after that, it's got in braces, yeah, 2 and a comma. And so what that means is look for any of the things in this set, and if they occur 2 or more times, change them to a single regular space. There we go. Those multiple, there are such time savers. There's so many different things, and I was going to say Illustrator then. InDesign is so extensible. You can drop loads and loads of extra bits in there. So we use that. We also used a little single text search, okay, to search for the word chapter, yeah, with a return immediately before it. And then we created a paragraph style. If I just go to the style options in here. So we set this up in a fairly basic way. We've got more to do to that as we go on, but that will be, I think, probably we might do it in a bit, but probably in the drawstring method. And then we went through keep options here, and we decided to start any paragraph using this style on the next page. And also, while we were there, we did some export tagging, and we tagged this as a level 2 heading. And you can see all of the different heading tags in there, which is basically all you've got in terms of HTML and paragraph. Those are the only things you need for this kind of document. Okay, so that's what we looked at last week. Hopefully we're all good there. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. What, where I live? Yeah, absolutely. Aslan's out there right now, kicking it up big style. That sounded really dreadful. Oh man. Anyway, actually, I used to have a friend called Aidan who lived in a big house in Nottingham, and it was one of those really, really grand big Georgian houses. And the person who owned it had made an additional room. He let the things out to students, and he'd made an additional room by basically knocking the back out of a wardrobe, yeah, and literally putting it in a corridor that had just like a terminal end on it, and turned that into a room to charge money for. And so when he went to his room, he just basically opened the wardrobe doors and walked in. So we'd call him Aslan for a bit. Anyway, there we go. Stuart's come here for some sanity and calm. Ooh, that's next door. Sanity and calm. But we'll give it a good shot. Okay, right. So we're all good with where we've been. And so now what we need to look at is where we are going. So we used the paragraph style to split up all of these different things last week into chapters. But what we're going to do now is, first of all, we're going to apply a body text style to a whole bunch of text. So we're going to create it. Then we're going to apply it to a whole bunch of text. Then, okay, we're going to do something more production-like with this actual EPUB in a way that many book publishers would do this. They wouldn't do an entire book like this in this particular way. So we're going to do that. That bit is painful for me, not so much for you, but I'll show you how that works. So let's go ahead then and create our body text. Now I might have a separate style for the front matter. We'll work out that later on. Okay, but what I'm going to do here is just basically I'm going to grab a couple of paragraphs, I think, because I want to see how this works. And also, because there's so much dialogue in this, I want to just have a look at how that's going to roll. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new paragraph style. I'm just going to call this body, like so. There's only going to be a few styles in here, so I don't typically use numbers for these things or anything like that, just straightforward and based on nothing at all. Next style, same style, doesn't really matter because I'm not typing it so much. Okay, and then let's go ahead and make some changes here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of the fonts that I can use, I know will work on many different devices. So Georgia is what I'm going to use just here. Okay, now typically you would make this a little bit larger than you would in print. And I think, unless that's changed, the standard used to be 16 point. So that's how you would do it. You would do it at 16 points. There, like so. Now, the user can always override this. They can choose in many platforms what typeface they see it in, okay, and how big the text is. It's kind of an important accessibility thing. I think for now, though, we'll just drop that down to 14. We'll be fine with that as it is. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that. Everything else there is fine. Nothing in the advanced, indents and spacing. It is typical when you've got close text to add a little bit of a first line indent. And when you've got things that don't have too much space in between them, yeah, then it's very common to do that. Okay, to add just a bit of space to the left, because that way, if for whatever reason it's being rendered without any spacing in between, okay, then it's nice and easy to see where the next paragraph begins. I'm going to hedge my bets though, and I'm just going to add a little bit of space after, just here, which should be rendered but may not be. So I'm going for the best possible situation there. So I'm going with 5 pixels in between. I don't know about you, but I think that works pretty well. Just there. Tabs I don't need to worry about. They don't exist in the world of EPUB at all. There is no character that represents a tab. Okay, and paragraph rules, again, they're not going to help. They're not going to work in quite the same way. There are, well, they do, but we're not going to use them here. So you can have rules because they're interpreted in CSS as a border, just above or below, border top or bottom. PJ is saying Comic Sans. PJ is saying, I don't work with InDesign often these days, but when I do, paragraph styles are used. It's the most sensible way to start anything, PJ, because otherwise, when you've got to when you've got to change stuff, change it in one place and have it propagate throughout the document. Jeff is in the chat as well. Hello. Was this the first Sherlock Holmes story? No. I don't think it was a study in Scarlet. Yeah, it was. Because in my EPUB course on lynda.com, the first course I ever did, that's what I used. I used a study in Scarlet. No, this one came much later. And did someone say Basil Rathbone? Yes, they did. Yeah, it's kind of. I don't know if have you watched that recently, Jeff? I watched it actually on Monday, and it's just cracking. It's just so good. Oh dear. And Jeff saying he loves. Thanks, Peter, by the way, for dropping in there with a study in Scarlet and Doyle's first story. And Jeff saying, I love stars. Now, I think Arthur Conan Doyle, didn't he ruin himself in the end with his obsession with the supernatural? Wasn't he one of the people that did that? I think he was. Yeah, 1887. Get in. There you go. Keep options, not worried about that. Hyphenation, I don't actually want this to hyphenate at all. The renderer will just move it. The great thing is you don't need to worry too much about that in here because you don't know what the surface is like that they're going to read it on. You have no clue whatsoever. So you can do things with word spacing, less spacing if you want to, especially if you're justifying, but you're going to have to test that on as many devices as you can before. None of that stuff that I'm using here is going to apply, so I'm going to go straight down to export tagging. And automatic means InDesign will give it its best guess, but I'm going to actually stop it from guessing by saying just make that a paragraph like so. Okay. Now, with paragraphs, yeah, you can actually change those to add a particular class to them, right? So if you wanted to do something that was slightly different, let's do that in a minute, right? Then we could actually get it to create a separate class for it. You'll see more on that. Maybe I'll leave that till next week and you'll see more on that just then when we actually dip into CSS. So these have all got that style applied to them. So what I need to do now then is go ahead and click at the beginning of this thread of text and then shift click just here. Quick apply, quickest way to do it. So command return, control return on Windows. Body is already highlighted. Hit return, done. Okay, so down to the next one. I'm just going to click just here at the first line, just there, make my way down. Okay, and shift click just there, and again do that. So this is going to get considerably more dense now. This book, this is going to be much more fun. Just here, it's probably, I'm guessing, going to jump to about 80 pages. Just there. That's what I'm thinking. So while I'm scrolling through this, I'm just taking a look at all the dialogue here and seeing if that looks okay, because it is dialogue intensive. Yeah, they're always talking about things. There we go. And this one, the Hound of the Baskervilles, I think that was the one where the origin of the term red herring, I think, wasn't it? Didn't that come from there? I think it did. Not sure, but there was definitely one in it, but I don't know if that was where the term was coined or not for the first time. So that, of course, is being something that you think will change your opinion. So you think, oh, right, okay, that's definitely that person that did it. And then, of course, you're shown to be a fool because it was just there to misdirect you and intensify the mystery. And in the Hound of the Baskervilles, that's because the housekeeper, who is Mrs. So there's butler and housekeeper. Trying to remember the name. Can't remember their name off the top of the head. It's going to probably appear for me in a minute. But her brother, spoilers, her brother was a criminal. And he's escaped. He's a murderer. He's the Notting Hill murderer. Notting Hill strangler, I think. So thoroughly unpleasant as an individual, but Now, if you're thinking this is taking a while, it'll take you a lot longer if you were, of course, going ahead and selecting the text, going up to the top of the screen or over to the right-hand side of the screen or wherever. Now, we've got something interesting just there. We've got something I might like to highlight slightly differently. And that was at the beginning of chapter 9. Yep. In that represents a letter. And it would be interesting to make that look a bit more like that. Let's see how we go on for time. There we go. And Jeff saying, you were watching the old films. Basil is the best. Loved him since I was a kid watching with Dad. Yeah, I mean, come on. Fantastic. I watch a lot of old films. I also watch a lot of Chinese films for some reason. I just really like them. Got a lot of Chinese cinema collection in my house. Like the original Story of Milan and everything is really good. Not like the live action Disney one. The Chinese one is brutal. And also one of my favourite films is the film Confucius. Chinese film. Incredible. Right, okay, I've reached a point here where I've reached the end of the natural pages. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just hit escape to come out of that, and then I'm going to delete this frame. I'm going to go to the preceding frame and click on the outflow port, which is showing an overflow. Hold down shift and then click there, and it will add me more pages. How many did I get more? So quite a few. So this is actually turning into quite a body of work. Now I know I could have done some of this separately. So those are all good just there, and made it much shorter, but I want you to get a sense of what it's like to actually work on an actual text. Plus, going to publish it and make bazillions afterwards. But there we go. Bruce Gonzalez. Hello. Is it Hudson? I think it is Hudson. Bruce is saying hello to you as well, Chloe. In there. Can we give him a wave? I think we've got a wave, haven't we?
No.
Have we not? Okay. Oh, mind you, it only appeared tiny in this one. Seven Samurai. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. I've been watching a bunch of the old Charlie Chan's good stuff. Yes. Well, Arthur Conan Doyle was abducted by aliens. I seem to think he basically threw away a lot. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he threw away a lot of his fortune. He was kind of hoodwinked. I've got a funny feeling it had something to do with two sisters who conned him. Not entirely sure. Of course, a smarter way to have done this in the first place, if I didn't want to separate the book out, would have been to create the body style first, and apply that to all everything. But again, this all important auto flow, it's at least reinforcing that for you so you can see how that's working. Okay, so here we are, just down to this one. Let's make sure I've got that right from the left-hand side. Mrs. Hudson didn't stick around much in elementary. Right, this is actually the end, just here. The clue is because it says the end at the very end there. You can see there's a lot of chat going on just there as well. Right, and then this is the Project Gutenberg aftermath just there. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to get rid of that just for the purposes of this. I will reinstate whatever I need afterwards. So I'm going to click just here and then Command Y, Control Y to get to the story editor, and it should show me where I am, which it does. All right, so it's showing me just here. Okay, so this is the end matter. Just there, the license stuff and all of that good stuff, which to some extent I would need to include. And then there's the end of story marker there, that octothorpe or hash, however you want to call it. But I'm just going to basically delete there like so. So now we're in a situation where we've got one overspill page, or have we got two? Two. I'm just going to select those pages and delete them. And now we know what we're in for. Let's do a quick save on that. We could go ahead and edit the chapter titles in a bit, but I think we'll do that. We've also got some things here where we don't need to worry too much about this flow. So even though in a print document, this would be a thing where you'd think, oh no, I don't want that to split across 2 frames like that. Remember that when it's done, it will be stitched together into one long continuous string of text. There we go. Are you still talking about Mrs. Hudson reverb? Is it Hudson? I don't think it is, you know. Are you Googling for me? Mm-hmm. Well, I've got the text in front of me, so I can actually have a quick... oh, mind you, that they're not until chapter sort of 3 or 4 because you've got Dr. Mortimer and all of that good stuff. This is how we're doing. Oh, look, there's a load of footnotes in there that need to come out as well.
Eliza Barrymore.
Barrymore. That's it. So Eliza Barrymore. Her husband is simply referred to as Barrymore because he's the butler. Okay, but there we go. Thank you, Chloe. You also, you totally
but
not.
To be fair, Hudson. There is a Mrs. Hudson.
Ah, there is a Mrs. Hudson. Yeah, because Mrs. Hudson is Sherlock Holmes's housekeeper. Of course. Yeah. I was thinking about the Baskervilles housekeeper. Yeah, Mrs. Hudson, Sherlock's housekeeper. Right, so now we've got this. So we've got our thing for our cover. We've got some front matter here. Okay. Then we've got all of this good stuff here, which I have just saved. And that's important because we're going to want to see a few things in here. So in book production, in commercial book production, like I said, most producers don't have this all in one document. Okay, most of them would split the chapters apart into separate documents. And that's where an InDesign book file comes in. Okay, but before we get to that, which we will shortly, or fairly shortly, what we need to do first of all is to split up this text. Now I'm going to show you a thing that exists in InDesign already, and then I'm going to show you something else which actually does perhaps a better job, depends what you're doing. Okay, so before we get to that, let's just go ahead here, and so you can see this text frame and its outflow port. I'm going to do Option Command Y, that would be Alt Control Y, which visualizes the threading for me, and you can see the thread going there. There are some footnotes in there as well, reverb. There are a couple of different notes, so I'd need to get rid of those for this one. Okay, so you can now see that this frame threads across to that one, and this frame threads across to that one, and so on and so on and so on. But I need them to be in particular threaded chunks. Let me just go ahead then. Okay, I'm just going to turn off the threaded frames. I've got this frame here selected, like so. I can zoom out, perhaps not quite that much. There we go. So you can see that and the one after. So just this frame selected. And then I'm going to go to the window menu, down to Utilities, and choose Scripts to open up the script panel. Okay, so I've got a number of different things in here. I'm going to go for JavaScript. I believe, by the way, that AppleScript is going away just there. UXP script won't, because UXP script does a lot of other things, and UXP is the framework which InDesign and Illustrator are using going forward. So I'm going to go to JavaScript just here, and you've got a few different things. There's break frame, which some people use. Okay, you've got split story. That sounds great, right? Split story. But if I double click it, that script has now run. Let's see what happens when I select this frame. You'll see it's threaded to nowhere. And that's the same on every page that we go through. So while split story does indeed split it up, it means that I'd have to manually rethread those things together. Now, because it's done a series of operations, an undo won't cut it. So what I need to actually do is use the revert command just here to get back to where we were. Okay, so let's go back up to, it takes us down to the bottom of the document as well. So I'm going to go back to page 3, just there where this starts. So a script that does a better job, okay, is one that you can download, and what you need to search for, okay, is Story Splitter JSX. Now, if I had that as a link, Uma, hello. If I had that as a link, I'd give it to you, but it's really easy to find. Story Splitter, capitalize both S's, okay, and then just type that and script for InDesign, and you can get to, I think it's Addy's site who did this. Download it, and then once you've downloaded it, if you go to this folder and right click on it, you can do Reveal in Finder or Explorer if you're on Windows, and it will take you out to this folder called Scripts. But where you need, there's a folder here called Scripts Panel, and if you open that, that's where you drop it. So scripts are where you can store other scripts if you want to, but if you want them to appear in the user section of your script panel, this is where they go, inside the cunningly named folder that says Scripts Panel on it. Okay, so now we're going to work through this document again, doing a few other things. So I'm going to go to the front matter just here, okay, and I'm going to double click Story Splitter, and this one gives you a dialog. Okay, so I want it to split before the selected frame. Okay, now I don't think there's actually anything in that one, but I'll run it anyway. See if it generates. See there, it's going to generate me an error because the one before it, okay, is like that. Let's go to this frame, run it again. So split before and hit OK. Now if we go ahead and look at this, as we were before, again, it's taken me right the way down to the bottom, and it will continue to do that, by the way. If we go to page 3 just here, and then we turn on our thread, so Option Command Y just there, and click on one of the frames, you can see that that frame has captured all of the contents that were on that page, but it now threads to nowhere, whereas chapter 1 continues to thread through the story. So what we would then do is we would scroll through, and because we've got our chapters on page breaks, we know that chapter 2 or here starts on page 6. Double click on that, so we target that frame, Story Splitter, split before, hit OK. Okay, then we can jump to page 6, Command J6 from there, and then make our way down. Okay, so here's chapter 3. Let's just hit escape so we're not actually in that text. Split story, and we'll make our way through doing that. Angus Mackenzie. I don't read the script. The script was read Tropic Thunder. Annika, hello. Cunningly named. That brought you out of lurk mode, did it? Well, we're going to carry on working through this anyway. So I'm going to do Command J 9. I think is where we were last time. Oh, that's pretty close actually. I think that's where, and I can tell very quickly. I'm just going to hit escape by just doing Option Command Y. Let's just get rid of that a minute. I'll hit P. Just there, and you can see there's no threading just there, whereas here there's threading, so we know exactly where we are with that. Make our way down a little bit. There we go. Then we go to this one and split it and divide that up. Now I guess the only thing is I need to actually work through every chapter in here just for a minute, because and I need to keep hitting escape. It does like to just go ahead and jump in. I'm just going to follow the text threads here until I see no text thread. Then I can carry on from there. But we need to divide the whole thing up. I was just thinking then that I could probably not divide everything up right now, but if I don't, it might end up to be slightly difficult. We'll just do a couple more. We'll give it a try. So we can see we've got a lot of thread there. Okay, and there we've got a page that's ending there, chapter 9. I do need to just check, you know, that we've broken that in the right place. So let's do that. You see, chapter 6, we hadn't got that far. So I'm just going to go up to page 20. Let's have a look at that. That's still threaded. Yeah, we'll just do a few. So, okay. So we've got chapter 4 just there. The problem that's going to be if I don't actually split it at this point, or if I don't carry on the split, is that we're going to very quickly end up with problems when we make the next part. So unfortunately, I think I'm really going to have to do. So this is at page 20, and I'm just going to have a quick look here. 25 is the next one. So if I just split this one, okay, so split before. And then I can do Command J 25. There we go. And escape at that point. Split this one. There are other scripts, by the way, that can do this based on other criteria. But this one's free. Costs nothing at all. Go to this one and escape. And split that one up. I should have chosen a slightly shorter book. Here we go. It's because I wanted to do the cover for The Hound of the Baskervilles, that's why. So we know we were at a point there. That was chapter 6. I need to just keep an eye on where that is. So we'll just double check. There, no thread going across there, but threads going everywhere else. So we'll scroll down, and there we go. 35 is where we need to be next time. Okay, so we'll go to that page. And let's double click again just to make sure we get the whole thing. And story splitter, and after that we'll need to go to quite a lot, 45. So split before, and then Command J 45. So you can see if you do work sort of a system into it, so the one after this will be 49. You need to remember to keep hitting that escape key. And then before you know it, will be done. So next on from there is 54, and after that will be 60. You all good, Chloe? Mm-hmm. Nice. And let's have a look at where we are after 60 and then 65, which is how old I feel today. And then once it's done, so 65 then finishes at 69 and 70, so that's pretty good. Let's just hit escape. So this one, and then that's got to be it actually, I think. You can see it is a job of work, but you're getting some real world stuff here at the same time. So I'm just going to hit escape, and after 70, that is it. That's the end. So this is the last one, and there we are. And a quick save to update that. Now we've got all of those things in place. So essentially, what we have now, okay, is we have. You can see here threaded story. So if we just look at chapter 15. That threads through like so, carries on threading and threading until the very end. Okay, and typically I would check all of these by clicking on them, making sure that we've only got those chapters, but we did it, so there we are. Chapter 14 is good. So now we've got all of those different sections to work with. We can get rid of the scripts panel. Is that all clear so far? Do you want to just let me know if that's all good while I grab a quick drink? Save. Did already. Did. But thank you for the reminder. No, I wouldn't want to watch me do that all over again either. But, okay, so we've now got all of those things split apart. So now it's time to start looking, okay, at making some other things. Now, I've got a single document just here. Okay, like so. Then that's exactly the same document type as I had before. So I'm actually going to save this one. Okay, I know it's got nothing in it just at the moment. Okay, but I'm going to do this as front matter. Just there. Like that. Then I'm going to save it as chapter 1. And like so, save it as, and I'm going to repeat this a few more times. Okay, here we go, like so. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. So we've got chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And because chapter's there, all I need to do is backspace on and just change the digit. So I'm just hitting the right arrow key, delete, entering the new number, and done. So that's a lot quicker. And here we go. So just a few more. There we are. It's times like this we need background music. And one final one. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to end up with some redundant pages in these, as you'll see in just a little bit. Okay. And thank you for letting me know it's all good. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's go back. So I'm just going to shut. I did chapter. Why did I do chapter 16? Did I mistype that? Let's just have a quick look at that. So I'm going to go to. What's up now?
Oh, I said I hear Tony's got his keyboard hammers out again.
I do have my keyboard hammers out again. I ought to get a keyboard that's got like little bits of velvet over the keys. Yeah. So I only do it when you're in here, you know. In the mornings, it's all nice and quiet. I type gently, no one can hear me. I noticed that Liz Mosley is a chapter hammerer. Right, so I typed 16 and not 15. That would be awkward. Okay, very good. And of course there'll be more chapters besides, but adding those later on will be fun. So I'm going to do Command J2 to go back to this one here. Right, so, and we're going to do this a few times, so you'll see how it works. You need some soft white snooker gloves. We've got a tray of those somewhere. We got them for when we were handling the auto cue thing. We have an auto cue that goes over the front of one of the cameras. And you have to handle that with white gloves, because otherwise if you get the slightest smudge on the glass, it has to be perfectly clean, because the camera sees through it and projects the image upwards of the auto cue. But yeah, of course you have everything. Oh, yeah, I have. Not everything. I mean, spiritually, yeah, I have. I've got a lovely wife. I've got 4 fab daughters. I've got 7, nearly 8 grandchildren. So, yeah, there we are. Right, okay, so moving on. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to right-click on this, and I'm going to choose Move Pages. Yeah. And then it's going to say, where do you want these pages to go? Which ones do you want to move? So you can see here it just says 2. Now I can move it within the document, but what I'm actually going to do is change it to another document. However, what I did forget before doing that is that document needs to be open. So I'm going to make sure that every single chapter document there is open. That will just take a minute. There we go. So now I've got quite a busy tab at the top there. So I'm going to use the window menu to navigate to where I want to be. So this time for Reels, I'll do move pages. So move page 2, okay, to front matter, which I didn't make. It's because it's not open. We'll try that one more time. Today is the lesson of repetition. There we go. Right, so we'll get front matter open as well. Great stuff. Let's just stop that overlay showing on all screens. That's interesting. There we go. Right, so window menu and Hound of the Baskervilles. This time then, right click, move pages, move page 2 to front matter, delete that page after moving it. Boom. Right, it's going to tell me it contains objects, delete the page anyway. Yeah, and when we go to front matter, you can see it's got that page here, but it puts it in as an additional page. Yeah, so all I need to do is delete the first page and we're good. Yeah. Okay, it's because you can't start an InDesign document without there being a page in it. But in the grand scheme of things, I like to think that this is not like going down into the cold, dark earth and fetching back coal, as I'm very, very, very fond of saying. Okay, so here I'm going to use page 2, 3, and 4. Right, this is very helpful, this white space here, making it much, much easier for me to pick these things out. Right click and move pages. Okay, you can see how it highlights them here, pages 2 to 4. Now, if you had a gap in that, so let's just say you wanted page 2, 3, and then 4 to 6, you would have 2, 3, 4, -6. That's how it works, that page selection. So it's useful to know that there's a way you can do that. Okay, so chapter 1, that's where that's going. Delete pages after moving and do that. Now if we go to chapter 1, because it's always worth a good check, and that way we can also delete the other page just there. There it is at the top. And once again, all we need to do when we get there is to hit that trash can and just do a quick save. And indeed, close it. We'll close each one as we go. So now we've got chapter 2. Okay, so we'll grab all of those, move pages. And is this news to you completely? Did you know that you could do this with InDesign documents, that you could move things across in this way? This is what I want to know. Do they know, Chloe?
I don't know yet.
Oh, you don't know yet. Okay.
Peter said no, I didn't.
There you go, you see. Wash, lather, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. You should do a fronts piece. There will be a fronts piece. It'll all be stitched together, Caroline. It will all be stitched together. You're like Mr. Fox from Peggy Pig. You have everything. I don't think I've read Peggy Pig.
No.
Is that something I should have added to my... don't think I've done that one, Stuart. Now, the thing you should be trying to do right now is, as I do this, you should be trying to predict... oh man, I did that incorrectly. So I'm just going to go to... so what I did there, let me show you, is I moved those pages, but what I didn't do is I didn't delete. Didn't tell it to delete those pages. So now I need to remember to do that and get rid of those. So now we should start with chapter 4, which we do. We'll go to here, and this time I'll try and do it. So try and predict. This is the best way for learning to occur in many ways. You've seen with some repetition what I'm doing there, but now try and predict what I'm going to do next in your own mind, because that way, right, it will help you, yeah, to cement this bit of learning. So it's just asking me about the deletion. That's just fine. We'll then go to chapter 4, which I can now see. We'll delete that extra page and save. And in a minute we'll be talking about the book file and all of that good stuff, and a bit more besides. So we'll close that one. Not too many to do really. So once more we'll go ahead here and move pages. We want it to go to chapter 5. Delete the ones afterwards. I'm just going to DSA that one so don't show again, just for there. And we'll go to chapter 5, delete that page and save You know, if this was really, really easy, it would have no value in it. Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to charge a reasonable amount to do it. Yeah, because it would have no value. People would just say, well, I'll do that all myself. Most people don't want to, but they could otherwise. You'll notice here, by the way, that there's a complete absence of things like page numbers. Did I just do that with chapter 6 again? I need to just open chapter 6 now, because I think I forgot to delete the pages there. Sorry? Yeah, but I think I've still got chapter 6 in the book here.
Oh, okay.
I have. Let's just double check. Yeah, I have. I've got chapter 6 still there. So I'll delete that. So chapter 7, which is quite long, goes through to there. And this is the thing. You need to watch where these go, and you need to... This isn't sticky. This option, it doesn't stick for good reason. Yeah. So you need to keep an eye out for those. Just do this like so. Okay, so I just wanted to do it. I'm doing it in the way that I would if I was actually making this as a proper book. So chapter 8, the list goes down as we work. And just delete that. And you can see it gets into a bit of a rhythm. Just there, and close that. And then we're back. Oh man, I've done it again, haven't I? I did, didn't I?
I don't know.
I think I did. I'm just going to go open recent page, chapter 8. Yeah. Fudge cakes. Anyway, not a big deal. So let's delete that. And then we'll go to this one. Which is this one? That's still chapter 8. What is going on there? Let's try that again. Let's just choose delete spreads. Oh. Right. Who can guess what's gone wrong here? Why does it keep jumping to chapter 8? Can you work it out? I have worked it out. But can you see why? So I may have created a proper mess for myself in here, in that. Right, this is jumping from there to chapter 11. Reason being, that is one of the places where I didn't correct. There were 10, 8. Right, so there we go. Chapter 8, chapter 10 is just there. So what I need to do is go back to that script and then force that frame break just there. Actually, it looks like it has. Right, so that's fine. Chapter 10 is just fine. I'm going to come back to this one, which should be chapter 9, or I could perhaps do it from here. So let's go for the story editor. Okay, so Command Y, hammer fingers please. There we go. We'll close that. So if we scroll down in here, we will find we can now look through the styles on the left hand side. So I'm looking where it says body, 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 just there, and suddenly we hit this style, chapter 9, and it's because I didn't break that frame. And that's the reason it keeps showing chapter 8, because technically it's still chapter 8. So now that page changes to chapter 9. We'll need to be very careful about how we go through that ghosts. Okay, so now we've got chapter 9, and I'm just going to we've got chapter 11 there. So what is... So that's chapter 9. Let's work our way through it, and that's chapter 10. Is chapter 9 a single page? No, it's not. So we'll have to come back to chapter 9. We'll just work from chapter 10. So we'll go from here, double click it again just to make it fit to the full screen. We'll select those. Then we'll move those pages. We'll try that again. I actually said duplicate spreads just there, so I'll just undone it. We'll move pages, So this one's going to chapter 10. Delete those pages after moving. Yeah, there's another thing there that's not broken. Okay, we're gonna avoid that just for the time being, and I'll make that my own homework to fix all of that stuff. So let's pretend that we've got all of those things. I'm just going to close everything just here. So let's close all of those documents. Okay, and we'll just, I'm not going to save that for the minute. I'll come back to it. Okay, so I'll just close all of these. And this one. Okay, and I'll fix any of those problems later. It's like watching that magic trick. Which company didn't? None of them is up his sleeve. Oh my God. Well, you know, I'm talking to you while you're watching me do this. Yeah, and it's good fun sometimes. And when things go wrong, they can go wrong. So where we go now is we go to the File menu and to New and to Book. And this simply creates us a folder. So I'm just going to call this HOTB. Just actually, I better call it Hound of the Baskervilles. And that should be capitalized there. Like so. I'm going to save it into that same folder as where everything else is. And this is what you get. This is your book file, and you can think of it like exactly what it is, which is a folder, essentially, but we're inside of InDesign. Oh dear, expert teaching mode at work. I don't, perhaps not today, Angus, but thank you anyway. It's good fun and educational fun until somebody gets hurt. Dun, dun, dun. Well, let's not have that. What is 3-card Monty? What is that? I don't know what that is. Can you Google it for me? Right, okay. So this is where your book collection comes from. Okay, and to add documents, right, and remove them, you've got all of those controls at the bottom here. But of course, we can't do anything till we've added them. Okay, and so from here, we can go to, let's just put in front matter, for example, just there. But let's undo that. Just there, let's just take that out a second and try it again. I'm going to actually grab all of those things, like so, and then choose Open. And so after a moment or two, it will bring those in. It does take it a minute. It has to do a few different things before it gets there. Mind you, not normally this long. I don't want to add them individually. Come on, there we go. Yes. And let's wait until it's done all of that. Okay, and here's our book. Now, front matter, of course, is not in the right place, so I can drag that up to the top, like so. And there we are. All right, we've now got all of this stuff just here. Now, don't worry about the numbering for those pages and everything just there, because there's no content from chapter 9 onwards because of snafu just there. Let's have a look at the other things here. So we can get to these different documents. We can also find out where they are in our system. So when we hover over them, we get a tooltip that tells us where they are. Okay. So we've got a bunch of other different things here. We can save the book, which is a good idea. Let's just save the book right now. Okay. We can also print the book from here. Now, print operation comes into a few different descriptions just there. And more importantly, is this icon on the left hand side. I'm going to zoom in for you so that you can see it. This one just here. And this becomes the style source for the book. Right? So changes I make to those styles in here. So let's open chapter 1. I've double clicked on it. We can see that. And let's also open chapter 2. We can see both of those things. So they are both using that chapter style. Now I'll need to force them to refresh from there, but let's go ahead and go to that chapter. Let's go style options, and again I'm just going to use something really straightforward. I'm not going to use Adobe Garamond Pro. I'm going to use something that I know will work on a device, and just for the purposes of now I'm going to choose Arial here, just straightforward, regular, everyday Arial, not any variation of that. So let's just find that. There we go. There we go. That's just good. And we'll make that bold. Why not? And then we'll just pump up the size from that, make it nice and big. And we'll put some spacing after. We'll be reviewing all of this, by the way, next week. So you can see the things that have carried on through just there. Okay. Now I could also introduce, let's do that actually. We could also, in some ways, introduce a first line of a chapter so it doesn't indent. That's another thing you might choose to do, but I think everything there is just fine at the moment. Let's do a quick save, and also let's just have a quick look here inside of this. You can see you've got quite a lot of different options in there for synchronization and all of that good stuff. So these are the different things that will sync. Okay, you can see it's going to do exactly what we need it to do there. All right, so we'll do all of our text stuff. Now let's just pop away. Oh, I've made that change in chapter 2. Do you know what? I can get around it. So what I'm going to do is simply copy. I'll just redefine. So chapter 2 now is the style source for all of these documents. Okay, so I'll just click here. The double arrow at the bottom, synchronize styles. Let's now go to chapter 1, and you can see straight away that has changed. If we open any of the other chapters, now that hasn't, because it wasn't open at the time, right, for when I did this, but I've just highlighted all of these documents, okay, and then hit synchronize, and now you can see how that's worked. And it's a really smart way to put together long documents, right? When I used to work in catalogs, I can now make that the style source. When I used to work in catalogs, we didn't put together the whole thing because many different people were working on the same catalogs at the time. We were pushing out, you know, sort of four 72-page catalogs every 6 weeks. So we're doing all these different things, and something like that was some crazy number like that. And this would be the best way to do it, to have a book file which has existed in InDesign since God knows when. Yeah, and that way, when you make a change to all of those, of course, there are going to be things that change, right? So if I went into chapter 3 just here, for example, yeah, that one goes right the way. That one does have plenty of room there on the bottom. Again, the renderer wouldn't look at it that way. Yeah. Okay, you would just get to the end of a page and then it would start. So you don't need to get too hung up on that. If you're working with somebody who looks at the document and goes, oh no, I don't like those floor lines just sat there, what you have to explain is that that page boundary doesn't exist. Yeah, it is one long roll, as you'll see when we get to it. Here's a lot of chapters. Engelbert, how are you? Are you over your cold? Are you feeling better now? I think we know Engelbert, don't we?
I think we do.
I think we do. Yeah, I think we know Engelbert. That's a lot of it is a lot of chapters, but I wanted to make this as real world as possible, including making mistakes. Engelbert, I made a couple of mistakes there. It is a lot of work, but in the process of this, you might not use it to do a book like this, but you might do it to put together something that other people are working on, and you're bringing them all together in there, and they might not use exactly the right styles for it, so they might create their own definition. You can override it and so on. You can do all of that good stuff in there. 3-card Monty is the game with 3 cards on the table, and you have to identify the right one after they've been moved around a bit. Oh right, okay. I don't know, because I don't gamble or anything like that. Dum dum dum. That's handy. Very interesting, says Angus. Very interesting, says Caroline. Yeah, wish I knew this when I started InDesign. It got too massive in the books and no time to update. If I was setting massive books again, this is the way. Hey RB, good to see you. It is another thing that I used to do quite a lot of were best value reports for councils. I don't think they do those anymore, but you used to have to produce a publication that showed with granular detail where your council tax was being spent, and so it had literally dozens of pages of tables and stuff in it. They were huge. I mean, I used to do one for Mendip, which was easily, I'd say, nearly an inch thick, that sort of stuff. Just in time for hay fever season. Engelbert does suffer with that stuff, so that's a shame. Engelbert, I still want you to work on that music for me. I think I've looked at the other alternatives. I still think you'd be the best person to do it. But it's a Scammers game. What's a Scammers game? Oh, what the Monty thing, right? Okay. And Caroline saying, I wish I'd known this back when I was helping my friend with his book. He sent me the chapters after he finished each one. Yeah, you could have just gone with that file, dropped into it. And the most work I think you'd have had to do there, Caroline, would be to go into a document. Let's choose one that's got nothing in it. Oh, actually, I think that one had one of these. I didn't delete the front page, so it's going to be chapter 8, isn't it? Oh no, I did do it. Is go into them and then add new styles, because if they don't exist there, then they don't exist there. Let's have a look then at inserting something else in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is not going to worry about this chapter quite so much. I have got something for this chapter, but I think what I'm going to do is go to chapter 2 when Dr. Mortimer arrives into Sherlock Holmes's house or room, apartment, and then starts to tell him about this legend. So here's the certain legend which runs in the Baskerville family, and it tells about the origin of the hounds, and it's quite a terrible story really, where there's a wealthy landowner who has taken a shine to essentially a maid, and he imprisons her in his house, and then she escapes, and he bounds across the moors to chase her, saying that he would sacrifice his soul to capture her, and all this stuff. It's quite bad stuff. Anyway, and then when his friends ride along after him, they find the maid dead, and they also find the original Baskerville, Sir Hugo, I think, if I remember, dead, and he's being attacked by this gigantic dog. There you go. And Stuart is designing a time machine. That's another book I sometimes buy. To go back and tell my past self to set it this way. I'd have more hair now. Me too. Oh dear. Use phone boot. Oh dear. Dr. Watson's in right at the very beginning, Peter. Yeah, right at the very beginning, in which him and Holmes are discussing things. It's a great story. The Chloe's probably at the state right now. She's going, oh, that's not that great a story. But anyway, I'm going to create a new paragraph style just here. Okay, so this is going to be my style. I'm going to call it inline IMG. Not OMG, IMG. And I'm going to just leave this pretty much as it is. The only thing I want to change here is to make sure that auto-leading is being used. And quickly, just so you know, you can always tell if auto-leading is being used if it's in parentheses. Okay, so if it's doing that, it means it's calculating it automatically. And at the moment, it's using 120% leading. I can tell you that because if I drop this down to 10 points, it would be 12 points. But that's not how I know that. How I know it, I'm just going to hit OK on that just at the moment. Oh, I want to do one more thing to it. I'm just going to go to the style options here. And for the alignment, I'm going to choose center. Just there, like so. Groovy. There we are. So we've got this paragraph thing here. Okay, that's great. So how do I know it's 120% leading? That's because in the preferences, which remember, there are two different sorts of preferences. There are the non-pub preferences. So that's when InDesign is open but doesn't have any open publication in it. And then there's the pub preferences, which are document specific. So that's things like baseline grids, they're document specific, and a few other things besides. But in type, okay, you will can't remember if it's that or advanced type, one of these things. I'm just going to have a quick look through. This is how often I actually get to look inside these things. But inside of here, I think it's in, I can't actually remember where that is, But anyway, in there, it will give you the option for auto leading. And you can also have it inside of a paragraph style. So if I just went back to that paragraph just here and went to the style, okay, then if I come down into the options down here, it's down here somewhere. When I find those, there you go, auto leading in justification, 120%. So if you change that, your value will change. Something else that's worth doing, by the way, when you've got a style, let's just say you were creating this style and this is where your images were going to go. What you could do, okay, is add paragraph shading to that style, yeah, and then give it a color like that so you know where it is. So if you were going ahead and saying, right, we're going to put, you had a plan agreed with the publisher who was saying, right, we're going to have this image here, this image here, this image here in this part of the text, yeah, then this would give you a placeholder that you could use. Yeah, that would work for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get an image in to our publication. So we're going to go to EPUB just here, and I should have images. So I've only got a few. So this is the first image here. This one's from Sydney Paget's illustrations. These are available on Wikimedia Commons. They are well and truly out of copyright here. So I've got a few, and there's Sir Henry, I think it is Baskerville. That's another one where they notice some suspicious behaviour with a carriage and arriving at the door. That's Barryman just there and his wife in there, and the chase driver and all of that stuff. And so there's lots of things in there, but I've only chosen a few. So this one, okay, I'm going to bring that in, and let's just drop that in there like so. So interesting things with images inside of EPUBs, because of the modern way that things are, right, it's always a good idea here for you to check, okay, that you've got sufficient resolution for this image. And in modern terms, iBooks and things like that, they prefer 300 ppi, so the same as print. It used to be that they would be much lower resolution, and then it went to everybody was doing everything at 150, but now it's 300 ppi. And next week I'll give you some resources where you can find out the current state of those things. I like the sound of pub references. I've never heard that one before, Oliver, ever. An American Werewolf in London. Ooh, yes. Hang on a minute. Ooh, we've got some late breaking stuff in here. Caroline is saying, you were right about the spirituality. Apparently it was after World War One. He lost a lot of family and friends, which really affected him. How sad. Yeah, and that's the thing. And he got fleeced completely. I'm sure he did. He got complete. Sean Kosel, hello. He got completely fleeced. I'm sure he did. But there we are. So, and Sean will work out that collab at some point before too long. Right, anyway, so one of the things you'll need to have a look at here. Now, that is weird that I dragged that to size, and it's showing me there that the effective PPI I've got is 300. Check me out and my mad skills. Anyway, so that's something you need to be aware of. The image you needs to be at 300 ppi. So if you've never anchored an object before, right? So that's a way that you pin an image or asset or group into the thread of some text or into some text. What you do is you go to this blue chip at the top here, okay, of any selected frame of a group or an image and whatever. And as you can see, it says drag into text to anchor the object, shift drag to make it in line. Okay, so that means it goes in with the flow of the text. Option drag to open a dialogue, okay, which you will find out more than you ever needed to know, okay, about anchoring. In fact, let's do it just for giggles. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this into the text here, like so. I can tell that this is anchored because there's an anchor. Weird. Who knew? Right here in the top, line like so. However, at the moment it's off the page, it's anchored off the page. So wherever I bring that image to, it should be anchored to that text. Now, of course, I'd need to do other things to it for it to show properly, but that's where it anchors to. If we go to the, I'm just going to drop this into here so my book file can live. Oh, mind you, it's not a good idea. I'll keep it out there. There we go, and make it big. So let's go to the story editor. So Command Y, Control Y for the story editor here. And if I highlight that chunk of text just here, so I've painted myself into a corner as usual. There we go. So let's do that. Command Y, and you can see there it is, and it has a little anchor in the text. Now you can actually move that around, believe it or not, from there. I'm going to undo that then. So you've seen how that's pinned to that piece of text, which means if that piece of text moves to somewhere else in the document, then that image moves with it. Like so. Okay, and we've got a thing coming up in a little while where we're doing a menu and we're anchoring images to that menu. So I'm just going to undo this just a couple of times to remove the anchor, and the easiest way to see that that anchor's removed, okay, is to see that there's just a blue chip there. So if I go ahead and do that, but this time hold down the Alt or Option key, this is where you get the anchored object options dialog, and this is where you can set really specific things about where and how the image is displayed in relation to the text. And you can see you can set it to go to be anchored to all different kind of things and how it would be relative to that. So this, for example, might be the anchor marker itself and then add an offset after that, so it disappeared after that. Okay, so you've got all of that good stuff just there, but that's for another day. I know that that used to be the exam question in the InDesign expert exams that nobody really liked. However, I want to do the last of, well, the middle of the three options we have here, which is to actually turn this into an inline object. And that's where that auto leading came into place, because it will treat this as a piece of text. It will basically read it and say, oh, you're a bazillion points high. Yeah, so that's fine. My leading will accommodate that with a little bit of room. So I'll hold down Shift and drag this in and drop it into my paragraph style just there, and there it is. That's it as an inline image. And what you could then do, of course, once you've got all of your images in, is just simply go and remove that highlighting so you know where they all are. And that means that rather it's left to right, top to bottom order for the way it reads stuff. Yeah, because you might think, well, I could do this and just put a jump frame in there and so on. It wouldn't work that way. It doesn't work in exactly that way. So it starts from left to right. So if it was reading across, you could, I saw Anne-Marie Concepcion do this once with a ruler guide, and it's a great way to explain it. The first thing it comes across when it moves left to right, that it will deal with that first. And of course, the first thing here is a massive great thread of text. So that's the first thing it would put in. And as it carried on and on and on, eventually it would come to this image, and then it would say, okay, I'll put that in afterwards. And if there was anything after that, then it would put something in after that, and so on. That's exactly how it works. So it deals with it just as if, yeah, it was scanning it from side to side. And if there are things that are arranged differently on the page, it will then start going top to bottom, and that's how it works. Okay, so now we've got that in here. Like so. So the image is in there. We created that style to do it. It's in line. If we were to export it at this point, then you'd see that this is in the middle. Okay. Now we need to do a couple of other things to it, of course, before we stop. Okay, and that is, of course, we need to give speech readers an idea of what this is, because understandably, people with no or low vision also like to consume books. Shocker, who knew? So you need to do everything you can, right, to tag everything in here up so there's some sort of semantic meaning. And as you'll find out as we go along through this next week, when we kind of do the drawstring thing, this will be something that needs to be done. So I'll get the whole book nearer to the state where we can move on, but we've got a couple of extra little things to do with images as well. But if we come down here and we come down to object export options, because these are the things that kick in, yeah, when the export options are triggered, that's when it happens. Yeah, then we can do something here. Right, there's other things we'll do that relate to the EPUB document itself. Yeah, there's other things you can do from tagging, right? But here we want alt text, right? And you can see that we've got a lot of different things here. So it's things it can pull from extensible metadata. Okay, so you can see the title, the description, the headline. None of these things have been done. But if you had like a Chloe that you worked with, then you could say to Chloe, can you tag all of those things up in the metadata? And then you just better pull that down if it existed. You can see if I do that, it's going to go like, well, I haven't got anything, there's nothing there. So I'm going to just use custom. And I would say like an image of, I think it's 3 riders, isn't it? Yeah, 3 riders. Riders in period costume. And you'd be as elaborate as you could with that, and you type it correctly. Who have happened upon the body of a deceased maid, and next to her is the body of so-and-so with a large dog. So you do all of that stuff. Oh, animage, which sounds like something you do to make things move. Right, so you do that sort of stuff. You would provide a full and decent description for that, and then that's tagged up. So a speech reader would pick that up. When it got to this frame, it would be reading this out, and then suddenly it would stop, and it would say, there is an image, and it would tell you what, and you could say, describe the image, and it would use that description for it. That's why that dialogue, right, is big, because it's not like an option thing like, oh, I think I'll put one in, just say, picture of 3 men and a big dog and all of that stuff. You need to actually give it some flavour for it to be a successful, a meaningful book. Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Tony Top tips today, says Angus. Let's have a quick scan back up, just to see if I missed anything for that. Nice. Mad, says Engelbert. Sean's doing Anchor. What's that one? Is that the worried face? And mind blown. Oh, nice. I like it. Tony Top tips today. I hope there's not going to be a test after this. There isn't going to be a test after this. Sorry, that's my go. Hi, Clever, by the way. That's my go. That's rough. Oh, boom. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, right, I see. It's not a goat, it's a dead person. It's a dead lady. She's met an unfortunate end. Employee of the month is Chloe. So she got a little thing. Sorry? Yeah. Oh, no, of the year. She's won Employee of the Month 36 times. Which is of some insult to her mum, my wife, who is who also works at the company, has never won Employee of the Month. Abby has never won Employee of the Month. So no, there we go. I'll start using the alt text from InDesign. It's a good idea to do that. I'm enjoying including alt text in my publications. That is a great way to approach it. Yeah. What's Sean saying? 36 times in 2 years. I lost the thread on that. That go ate my test. Oh, right. I see. Right. So what we went through today is we went through using a script, and that script, if I just go to the script here to split up, okay, storysplitter.jsx. So remember, you can search for storysplitter. And as I showed you earlier, you can go ahead and drop that into the scripts panel folder. So as you saw just then, when I was in the script panel itself, okay, from here, I just right clicked on it, reveal in, Finder on a Mac, Explorer on Windows, and then that would open up for you and just drop your script into that script panel folder, and then it'll appear in here. You don't need to restart like you used to have to in the old days. Now it's just there as soon as you do that. We clicked through the pages to more or less. I chose too many chapters, I'll be fair, right, for this particular one. But and then we split the story up, and then we created a bunch of new documents for the chapters to go in, and then we created a book file from there. So file new book, which essentially gives us a folder in the form of this panel, and then we imported those chapters in like so. You can see these ones are open because they've got a small dot next to them just there. And next week we'll take it on from there. We'll stitch up this stuff. We will get ourselves do a few other things, but ultimately we will get ourselves an EPUB out of this. We will do that 2 or 3 times, which again is just like the real workflow, because we'll also need to make sure it's valid, and then we'll talk about all that good stuff then. But for now, I think we're kind of good. So I'm hoping that you've enjoyed that. And don't forget, we'll be doing the second part of the cover as well next Tuesday. We'll be carrying on to work on that cover. Employee of the month 36 times in 2 years. Maths. No, so 3 years. Sean, did I say 2? Well, I know what 36 months is. It's 3 years. It's Chloe's 3-year workversary tomorrow. Actually, time is different in Tonyland. It is. I'm standing too close to a black hole. Now I get it. Okay. Thank you, Peter, and you are most welcome. And you too. Have a great rest of your day and night. Can you make a book file? Yes, you can, Caroline, at any point. Absolutely. Oh, Susan's going to miss next week on holiday. Make sure you try and catch it on demand. Subscribers, I know I've mentioned this before, but subscribers can catch it whenever they want. But try and catch it in that week from there. Tim, oh, you did. I'm so sorry. So good. Anyway, thanks everyone. It's been great having you here. Thanks again for joining us. I'll see you hopefully next Tuesday, if not next Wednesday. Great stuff. Okay, take care everyone. See you later. Bye.